Dragon history and Tumo. Everyone knows that fire dragons breathe fire. Of course, we all do. When they get really angry, they can incinerate anyone around them. Just ask the poor citizens in England who felt their wrath. Even in the beginning of Shambhala, the young and innocent dragons had anger problems. They would at times blow up and get angry. Even after years of meditation, this serious problem occurred. Yet they stumbled upon chance, or was it a chance? A different, more subtle fire within them. They happened to stumble upon Tumo, the fire of life. Slowly, this ancient wisdom was absorbed by them. They discovered the chakra systems and the channels within. They discovered nadis, which are like thousands of rivers running in the body. Mind you, in the coarse body, these can't be seen. Therefore, most people laugh and snicker when they hear such a thing. This process took around 5,000 years, even before the young Tibetans arrived. It took about 1,000 years for the Tibetans and the Indians to implement both their teachings and the dragon's teaching. Both of the systems were almost identical. They understood there was a coarse body and subtle body. They also understood there is a very subtle body that is infinite, beyond time and space. They would call this the Buddha body. Furthermore, they discovered the Buddha mind. They also understood Austrian physicist Edward Schrödinger is known for this phrase. The total number of minds in the universe is one. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings. There is one universal mind, or Buddha mind. These stages take place every night and bring you back to the source. Mystics and yogis have been practicing this for thousands of years. Slowly, over time, this Tumo system was developed. The Tibetan Buddhists have a comprehensive system of using Tumo. They may be different and have their nuances, yet the result is one and the same. This lineage has been carried on into today. Tumo is the foundation of their practice. Most people never discover the fire within and lead such an ordinary life. The wise man kindles the fire within and makes a bonfire. The fire then destroys all negative obstacles over time. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This system can be quite complicated, yet Glenn Mullen keeps it quite simple to use and understand. The following, the 8 stages of dissolution, is a riddle for you to solve. Ponder this over. Tumo and Tantra. Over 40 years ago, I heard about this ancient practice. There would be stories with pictures of Buddhists sitting in the snow with wet sheets around them, and they would completely dry them off. The first thing that came to my mind was, why not just use a dryer? It would take no more than 30 minutes to dry. There are an infinite amount of powers that one can acquire along the way. I thought, how would it be if they used the power of compassion to do this? Years later, after listening to Lama Glenn, I understood that the foundation of Tumo is compassion. In fact, to evolve as human beings, compassion is the essence. Lama Glenn explained in his 2-hour seminar many things that helped me refine my understanding of Tibetan Buddhism. My vision and understanding were greatly magnified. I look back at how my life has been in sync with the Buddha. Our house is like a Buddhist temple. We have Buddhist statues, Kuan Yin statues scattered throughout the house. My spiritual practice follows the ancient guidelines that Buddha taught about. Lama Glenn helped me to understand the experiences I have had for the past 50 years and translate them into the Buddhist understanding. Mind you, this is only by listening to a 2-hour seminar. Lama Glenn is going to present a 16-week course on this subject. I already got my money's worth just by his YouTube seminar. According to Milarepa, Tumo is the basic for the 6 yogas. The 6 yogas are Tumo, Illusionary Body, Clear Light, Dream Yoga, Bardo Yoga, and Pova. The Buddhists have a book called Crystal Clear. I read this book around 2001. Crystal clear is a state of utter formlessness. It is how to bring infinite radiance, stillness, and formlessness into everyday life. My understanding of crystal clear is probably the merging of Buddhist thought and the current understanding of the quantum field. Both are talking about the same thing. Read some of my books and you will see this theme presented in many ways. Lama Glenn said that the human experiences the essence of Tantra in 3 ways naturally. Every night when we go to sleep, one who is aware can capture a snapshot of the clear primordial mind. Making love is another way. The orgasm can lead to clear light radiance if one is aware. Meditation is another way. All 3 can be awakened within oneself. When one is sitting on the meditation cushion, when one goes to sleep, called clear light asleep yoga. The last is the clear light of death when one dies. These states are the fallen, awake, dreaming, and death. Tumo is the basic for the meditation practice. It brings infinite radiance, stillness, and formless into everyday life. The ultimate state is elusive, non-physicality, a clear mind, clear sight. Glenn says there is an infinite me, yet all forms disappearing. According to Lama Glenn, one learns how to lean towards form in everyday life and at the same time lead to the elusive non-physicality, clear mind, clear sight. The Kabbalistic calls these states feet on the ground and the head in heaven. One can sit and meditate and only have the 5 inner senses activate when one enters the clear mind, clear light state. Coming back to the internal senses, one activates the external senses. The goal is to harmonize the 2. The philosophy of Tantra says we exist simultaneously on 3 dimensions: coarse, subtle, and very subtle. Ordinary life is coarse. It consists of our minds and bodies. Everyday life is a part of this. External stimuli create internal experiences in the brain. At the coarse level, everything is experienced in duality. When one tries to meditate for the first time, one brings to the table a coarse mind, a mind that has been conditioning externally. Our body and state of mind creates various chemicals to reflect our state of being. The Buddhists have known this for thousands of years. Only recently has Western scientists embraced this concept and proven it over and over again. Dr. Joe Dispenza is at the forefront of this. The Dalai Lama has each year a conference with scientists from all around the world. This has been going on since the 80s. They have been studying the mind-body connection in the lab ever since. These are called by the Buddhists psychoneurology immune systems. Behind this loud noise lies the subtle body. Our minds and bodies are like tuning forks. We only vibrate at the frequency, the current state of mind and body. Here's an example of being out of balance. In my junior year, my parents took our family to Yosemite. It's probably one of the most incredible places on the planet. Yet I couldn't see the forest from the trees. I was miserable. Why? Because I missed the ocean. Now that is being out of balance. One can be in a heavenly place, and the subtle mind can be out of whack and cause suffering due to the state of mind. Your mental state creates the emotional state of your being. These disturbances are felt in the heart and thyroid. This is called subtle chemistry. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind are the two which control the chemistry. Remember, the subconscious mind controls 95% of our actions. Only 5% is conscious. I find it interesting that Carl Jung was familiar with Buddhist philosophy. I'm sure that much of his understanding came from that. Lama Glenn also believes in this. When one can stop the heart consciously and stop the physical functions, one enters the state of the timeless zone. The Buddhists are trained in breath retention. Tumo is the process of holding your breath and sending it to the heart. Then pure alchemy occurs and the higher chemicals are secreted into the body. According to Lama Glenn, by bringing all the energies to the heart, we become like a one-cell being. Arising from that brings the most subtle mind to be activated. Most of humanity lives in dense bodies. Need I say more? Look at the world today. Furthermore, Lama Glenn said, don't believe anything externally that's in the shape of my outside appearance. It's all illusionary. The biggest obstacles is to overcome the attachment to the ordinary appearance of things. This is called Maya, the great illusion. Talk to a quantum scientist and they will tell you about the quantum field. This has been proven over 100 years ago, yet we still live in the Newtonian model. At the next level, we try to manipulate these drops of chemicals to our advantage. In the beginning, we work with the four principal chakras, the navel chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, and the center of the brain chakra. These chakras help speed up the evolutional process. The Tantra states that one day of meditating in this state is equivalent to 100 years of normal evolution. Paramahansa Yogananda said the same thing with Kriya Yoga. Anyway, there are scientific practices that can speed up this practice. The basic of the Tantra practice is to go from gross mind to the subtle mind and ultimately to the very subtle mind. Tumo, illusionary body, and clear light is the process to take you from the gross, subtle, and very subtle bodies. One achieves enlightenment by these three practices of yoga. Tumo energy always starts with physical exercises. There are 6 main exercises. First one is similar to pranayama. They do this because most humans are shallow breathers. The purpose is to harmonize the male and female energies. This is the same concept of harmonizing the Ida and the Pingala nerves. These breathing exercises are done 3 times. When you do this, both nostrils should be balanced. If not, repeat the 3 rounds. Note for further explanation on taking the class. One should always do this before doing Tumo. During Tumo, one day does fast breathing through the nose. According to Lama Glenn's instructions, breathe in through the nose, swallow if you want, This will put the abdomen in the correct position. Hold for 45 seconds, relax, and slowly exhale the breath through the nostrils. Do this for around 10 minutes. Then do the same by rotating your abdomen clockwise and counterclockwise 3 times each. This is vitalizing your external organs. You're rotating the entire solar plexus regions. Do this without moving your backbone or shoulders. Remember to press down and pull up. This massages the gallbladder, pancreas, kidneys, and other vital organs. It is very good for digestion. Do the same, but push the stomach out and in. This is arising the fire energies. It also helps with the internal organs. No, don't read this book and try to do the exercises. You must learn from a qualified teacher. I'm just a mere beginner like you. Tumo means fierce woman. The digestive system is the system of the fire element. Did you know that there's a junction box with 72,000 nadis, or energy channels, that are wired there? It's not physical, yet it's real. Someday in the future, scientists will develop instruments which shows this. The acupuncturists of today know about this, along with the Taoists, yogis, lamas, and Jains. In Tantra, sexual energy is the purest and primitive energy. Our brain energies are the most impure because of the condition of our external stimuli, state of mind, and body. According to Lama Glick, by rising this sexual energy, our neural system is heightened by this pure energy. There are 108 exercises, but only 6 are needed. Lama Glenn's favorite exercises is look at 1:48:51 in the YouTube video. This is somewhat complicated. It just needs daily practice. Garchen Rinpoche said the following: the essence of Tumo meditation is to focus on the burning heat. One doesn't meditate on this in the ordinary way. Our body comes from our mother and father. When we were growing up in our mother's womb, her energy and life force entered us through our belly button, which makes it a very special place. It is said that through the white essence that we receive from our fathers, we give birth to the effective emotion of dislike, which generated our bones. Through the red essence that we receive from our mothers, we give birth to desire, and this generates our blood and flesh. In Tumo practice, we meditate on Varja Vihari in the form of a blazing line. Our mother's blessing truly resides in our precious human body. You can see the side of this blessing in the form of your navel. When we hold our breath there, using the Voss breathing method, the breath unites with our mind at that place in our body. The heat is ignited. This is the essence of Tumo meditation. Heat is generated in the body. Heat is necessary to live. It is part of our life force. When heat decreases, our life decreases. Longevity is heat. It is fire. Our life force is really heat. When our consciousness separates from the heat of our body, we die. Death in the body occurs when we lose the heat of our life force. So one of the benefits of mixing consciousness and heat in the body is longevity. Also, when you have heat, there is bliss. When you have bliss, there is clarity. When you have clarity, there is non-conceptual realization. Garchen Rinpoche. Dragon history and Tumo. Everyone knows that fire dragons breathe fire. Of course, we all do. When they get really angry, they can incinerate anyone around them. Just ask the poor citizens in England who felt their wrath. Even in the beginning of Shambhala, the young and innocent dragons had anger problems. They would at times blow up and get angry. Even after years of meditation, this serious problem occurred. Yet they stumbled upon chance, or was it a chance? A different, more subtle fire within them. They happened to stumble upon Tumo, the fire of life. Slowly, this ancient wisdom was absorbed by them. They discovered the chakra systems and the channels within. They discovered nadis, which are like thousands of rivers running in the body. Mind you, in the coarse body, these can't be seen. Therefore, most people laugh and snicker when they hear such a thing. This process took around 5,000 years, even before the young Tibetans arrived. It took about 1,000 years for the Tibetans and the Indians to implement both their teachings and the dragon's teaching. Both of the systems were almost identical. They understood there was a coarse body and subtle body. They also understood there is a very subtle body that is infinite, beyond time and space. They would call this the Buddha body. Furthermore, they discovered the Buddha mind. They also understood Austrian physicist Edward Schrödinger is known for this phrase. The total number of minds in the universe is one. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings. There is one universal mind, or Buddha mind. These stages take place every night and bring you back to the source. Mystics and yogis have been practicing this for thousands of years. Slowly, over time, this Tumo system was developed. The Tibetan Buddhists have a comprehensive system of using Tumo. They may be different and have their nuances, yet the result is one and the same. This lineage has been carried on into today. Tumo is the foundation of their practice. Most people never discover the fire within and lead such an ordinary life. The wise man kindles the fire within and makes a bonfire. The fire then destroys all negative obstacles over time. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This system can be quite complicated, yet Glenn Mullen keeps it quite simple to use and understand. The following, the 8 stages of dissolution, is a riddle for you to solve. Ponder this over. Tumo, commentary. I find it fascinating that the dragons on Earth discovered Tumo within. The DNA contains all the wisdom of the universe and beyond. When the dragons discovered this over 1 trillion years ago, Tumo and meditating on the chakras was a game changer. This led to the discovery of emptiness, which is embraced by many religions today. This, along with Illusory Body, clear light, dream yoga, and Bardo yoga, led to their grand finale, which we will get into later in this book. Illusory Body. The definition of the illusory body is as follows. A body made of subtle energy, wind, that one attains through advanced methods on the complete stage of the Tantra. Listen to Lama Glenn's interview. An illusory body Yoga's Awaking, Sleep, and Death. Glenn Mullen. You are the universe. You just don't know it. I find it incredible that we have the hardware, software, and operating system put into place, yet we have no idea it even exists. The illusory body is beyond time and space. Scientists might call it the quantum field. You were never born, nor will you ever die. Yes, your body will die someday. Illusory body is one of the 6 yogas of the completion or perfection stage of the Tantra practice. It is a profound yoga of training in both the pure and the impure illusionary body. Pure illusionary body is the training to transform our bodies into the Buddha body, and the impure illusionary body is the practice of working with our ordinary physical body, our subtle body, our dream body, and our after-death between bardo, thought body. Following the great yogi and doctor Yuthorth Yongtang Gampo 1126-1202, Dr. Nida considers this practice to be a direct and powerful Vajrayana psychotherapy designed to authentically free us from all impure and superficial concepts we have about ourselves, teaching us ultimately how to use our wisdom mind to transform our body into that of an enlightened deity form of a Buddha. In other words, this is our true nature. This is our true state of mind. Unfortunately, we're only focused externally. In the 6 yogas, this system is slowly incorporated into one's life. Through one's practice, a person is constructing the mechanics to build this body within. This is a misnomer, however. Your true nature is the Buddha body and Buddha mind. Yet this practice allows the transformation to occur inside of you. This is alchemy at its finest. The practice of the clear light and the illusionary body brings one to the state of enlightenment. This is your true nature. The 6 yogas of Naropa streamline the process to enlightenment. It bypasses many steps along the way. It strips out many different steps that some Buddhas have created along the way. It provides tools that one can use daily in one's life. It is a practical path, not a theoretical path. In this class, I have a greater understanding of this process. I've been meditating on my chakras for years, yet this class brought me to a greater understanding and helped me in my process. I learned about hidden elixirs that can be accessed along the way. I knew these existed, yet this path provides means to tap into the subtle chemicals of life. These subtle chemicals are both physical and non-physical. Scientists know this body is a chemistry set. The world is in chaos, and our healthcare system reflects that. One who learns to be in balance and harmony understands what I'm talking about. Many of the world's diseases could be eliminated if we got rid of the stress levels in our life. Billions of people can't turn off the faucet of adrenaline when trying to sleep at night. The toss and turning throughout the night. Most diseases are caused by stress. Maybe next time when a person laughs at the chakra system, one should ponder, all matter is nothing but the quantum field. Maybe, just maybe, the human body is made up of this field. Scientists know that the universe is quantum energy.
Your body is your drugstore. The art of Taoism has been around for thousands of years. I find it quite fascinating that they talk about the elixir of life. This elixir is not an herb or any external substance. This elixir exists inside of us. In India, they talk about the nectar from God that flows within. Yet here we are taking drugs for our ailments. Each drug has a huge side effect. Now, I'm not saying don't take drugs. I'm saying maybe there is a better way. For example, in China, you pay your doctor when you are healthy. You don't pay when you are sick. Mind you, in modern China, this isn't always the case. But the point is that you focus on balance and harmony. In our culture, everything is fragmented. We don't focus on the harmony of the mind, body, and soul connection. When I was young, I heard about the concept of being in harmony with the universe. To be quite frank, I had no idea what they were talking about. Here's an example of being out of balance. In my junior year, my parents took our family to Yosemite. It's probably one of the most incredible places on the planet. Yet, I couldn't see the forest from the trees. I was miserable. Why? Because I missed the ocean. Now, that's being out of balance. Before we can begin to be in harmony with the universe, let's try to be in harmony with the planet Earth. Currently, man has divorced himself from our precious Earth. We pride ourselves with the technology that we have, yet we are totally emotionally immature with the Earth. Where am I going with this? Imagine if man was in absolute harmony with the Earth. Can you imagine the wisdom that it has? It might tell you that your body is your drugstore. Every thought, whether positive or negative, secretes over 1,500 positive or negative chemicals. Currently, most of America is totally out of balance. Look at the problems today. I used to work for the USDA. I saw my friends taking up vaping. I couldn't believe how much smoke came out when they exhaled. It was at least 5 times the smoke from regular smoking. No wonder there is such an epidemic. Imagine there are drugs existing inside of you that are dormant. In order to receive them, you must be in balance and harmony. In each and every moment, we have the opportunity to be conscious and aware. Currently, we are playing the same tapes over and over again. I can guarantee you that these elixirs of life work better than any physical drugs. Your body has the intelligence to produce these for you. How many people listen to their bodies? How many people monitor their thoughts? How many people dive into silence? How many people monitor their actions? You see, there is a moment-by-moment conscious event. When we are unconscious, chaos exists. Look at the world around you. Does it seem to be in balance and harmony? The question is, do you want to change? Are you content with the current conditions? This isn't just Richard on a soapbox. I'm asking real questions. What do you think? You are your savior. Nobody's going to save you except yourself. All the scriptures point the way, but we must walk on this path. This human body is hardwired to find God within. We are on this incredible journey to discover our true nature. We are out of balance, and yet we can learn how to be in balance. These are exciting times. Millions of people are waking up.
Clear light. I always knew there was a light inside of me. Yet before I started to meditate, I would get fleeting glimpses once in a while. Our true nature is clear light, yet because our focus is externally, we are oblivious of it. For many, it seems like hocus pocus. Good old Albert talked much about the quantum field. Everything comes from that source. We see only 1% of the light spectrum. As I said many times before, we have the hardware, software, and operating system set in place. Just think you want to start a bonfire. You need fuel to start the fire, and more fuel to ultimately make the bonfire. The Buddhists and dragons discovered a system within where one could add precious fuel to the bonfire. Certain techniques are used to dissolve the blocks that we have within. Supreme alchemy is used to rewire both the physical and subtle bodies. Clear light is our essence. Over time, one sees this clear light, and one's attention is absorbed into this clear light in waking consciousness. Mind you, that person still has afflictions, but that person is consciously working to dissolve them. The goal is to become one with this clear light while being alive. One becomes united with the universe. One becomes in harmony and balance with life. We live such stressful lives that this seems like a fairy tale. Billions of people can't turn off the faucet of the adrenaline. They toss and turn all night. A mind that is in a high beta state will never see this clear light. Yet every night during sleep we return to this clear light. Upon dying, one sees this clear light and returns to the source. There are many different systems to connect and ultimately become one with this light. The Six Jokers of Naropa is one of them. It involves building a new circuit, both physical and non-physical. We have to learn how to rewire within. Our current day state of mind will never lead us home. Our afflictions never serve us, yet we are so conditioned by them. So what is this clear light? Imagine seeing a light that contains all. Imagine this light contains supreme bliss, love, and compassion towards all. Imagine this light contains all wisdom. Before this universe was created, this clear light existed. This is your true state of being. The universe was created. This universe will be destroyed. Yet behind that, the clear light will always be. You are a part of this. Yet currently, we only think about our petty lives. We are a part of the problem of why chaos exists on this planet. The Six Jokers of Naropa streamlines the process. It provides the main essentials for one to become enlightened. Granted, it takes effort. There have been many people who have become enlightened using this system. Even if one doesn't do it during this lifetimes, one's life is changed forever. There is a path that goes on forever. There's never going to be a time where you will clap your hands and say, I know everything there is. We are continuously growing and learning. We are going from darkness to light. This is the video game of life. What level are you on? There are infinite levels to play on. You can solve this riddle. The answer exists inside of you. Dreams. The following is part of an article by Yogananda called Life is a Dream. Life is a cosmic movie projected within the screen of consciousness. I look at the beam of God's light, which is projecting these scenes on the streets of light consciousness. I see the pictures of the whole universe coming from this beam. Another time, I was sitting in a movie theater watching a movie on a screen, and then I looked into the projection booth. I saw that that projectionist was not interested in the movie because he had seen it over and over again. Instead, he was reading a book. The projector was doing its job. There was the sound, and the beam of light was casting realistic images on the screen. And there was the audience, caught up in the drama. From age to age, from civilization to civilization, the same old movies are shown over and over again, only with different characters playing the parts. When I took my gaze from the light of the projector and looked at the audience in the movie theater, I saw that they were going through all the emotions of the actors in the movie. They were suffering with the hero and reacting to the evil of the villain. To the audience, it was a tragic experience. To the operator in the projection booth, it was only a movie. And so it is with God. He has created, imagine, movies of light and shadows, the hero and the villain, good and evil, and we are the audience and the actors. It is only because we identify with the play too much as being real that we are in trouble. Without shadows as well as light constructs, there could be no picture. Evil is the shadow that converts the one beam of God's light into pictures or forms. Therefore, evil, contrasting with good, is the shadow of God that makes this play possible. The dark shadows of evil are mixed with the pure white beams of the virtues of God. He wants you not to take these pictures so seriously. Here's what I have so far about the various dream states. Daydreaming, dreaming at night, life is a cosmic dream, living a dream or a nightmare, illusions, what you see might not be real, the cosmic dream, lucid dreaming, dreaming to accomplish goals, piercing the dream to see the dream fade away and see only the crystal light, brain chemistry dreams, advanced cosmic dreams. For the past 2 years, I've been consciously paying attention to the whole sleep cycle. I'm in a meditative state, watching myself, somehow going from that conscious state. I haven't watched that transition yet. Many times when I'm in a dream state, I see the dream dissolving in the crystal clear light state. This has happened quite frequently, where I'm aware that behind our dreams lies the essence of all that is. Recently, when I'm in a meditative state engulfed in light, the whole scene collapses and time and space is suspended. It is quite surreal. I see that time and space as a construct, yet there's something even beyond that. My motto lately is the more you pay attention to something, the more attention it pays to you. When I sleep, I try to meditate at the same time. Slowly, one can learn how to be in a sleep state and be conscious and aware of the inner jewel. One's body can be in a sleep state, while at the same time, one can be in a state of bathing in light and bliss. I'm looking forward to learning more about the dream work the Tibetans do. Here's the essence I got from Lama's Glen's YouTube video. Going to sleep in Buddhism is like dying every day. One goes back to the source and returns to everyday life. Usually, this is unconscious. Death is returning back to the source, and only the body dies. I call this going into a different room in the mansion of life. Glenn told a story about listening to classic music in his classroom. He had an out-of-body experience going to heaven. Angels were all around. He heard the laughter of angels. At some point, a kid was poking Glenn in the stomach and woke him up. All the kids were laughing in the class. To the kids, he just fell asleep smiling. Glenn was swept to the heavenly realm. Ramakrishna said the external beauty would help trigger him into ecstatic levels of consciousness. Glenn says, I wasn't with the angels. I was making a fool of myself in front of my fellow students. Yet, he did get transported into the heavenly realms. Sometimes our external stimuli will help trigger a divine experience. The Buddhists say that parents don't choose us. We choose our parents. Bardo Yoga. The Tibetan word Bardo means literally intermediate state, also translated as transitional state or in-between state or liminal state. In Sanskrit, the concept has the name Antabhava. It is a concept which arose soon after the Buddha's passing, with a number of earlier Buddhist groups accepting the existence of such an intermediate state, while other schools rejected it. Used loosely, the term Bardo refers to the state of existence intermediate between two lives on earth. According to Tibetan traditions, after death and before one's next birth, when one's consciousness is not connected with the physical body, one experiences a variety of phenomena. These usually follow a particular sequence of degeneration from just after death, the clearest experience of reality of which one is spiritually capable, and then proceeding to terrifying hallucinations that arise from the impulses of one's previous unskilled actions. For the prepared and the appropriate trained individuals, the Bardo offers a state of great opportunity for liberation, since transcendental insight may arise with the direct experience of reality, while for others it can become a place of danger as the karmically created hallucinations can impel one into a less than desirable rebirth. Francis Fremantle states that there are 6 traditional Bardo states known as the 6 Bardos: the Bardo of this life, the Bardo of meditation, the Bardo of dream, the Bardo of dying, the Bardo of Dharmata, and the Bardo of existence. The first Bardo begins when we take birth and endures as long as we live. The second is the Bardo of dreams. The third is the Bardo of concentration or meditation. The fourth occurs at the moment of death. The fifth is known as the Bardo of the luminosity of the true nature. The sixth is called the Bardo of transmigration or karmic becoming. Kanyan Bardo is the first Bardo of birth and death. This Bardo commences from conception until the last breath, when the mind stream withdraws from the body. Milam Bardo is the second Bardo of the dream state. The Milam Bardo is a subset of the first Bardo. Dream Yoga develops practices to integrate the dream state into Buddhist sadhana. Samstem Bardo is the third Bardo of meditation. This Bardo is generally only experienced by meditators, though individuals may have spontaneous experience of it. Samten Bardo is a subset subset of the Sanye Bardo. Chikai Bardo is the fourth Bardo of the moment of death. According to tradition, this Bardo is held to commence when the outer and inner signs presage that the onset of death is nigh, and continues to the dissolution or transmutation of the Mahabhuta until the external and internal breath has completed. Chonai Bardo is the fifth Bardo of the luminosity of the true nature, which commences after the final inner breath. It is within this Bardo that visions and auditory phenomena occur. In the Doshin teachings, these are known as spontaneous manifesting visions. Concomitant to these visions, there is a welling of profound peace and pristine awareness. Sentient beings who have not practiced during their lived experience and or who do not recognize the clear light at the moment of death are usually deluded throughout the fifth Bardo of luminosity. Sitpa Bardo is the sixth Bardo becoming or transmigration. This Bardo endures until the inner breath commences in the new transmigrating form determined by the karmic seeds within the storehouse consciousness. The 8 stages of dissolution. This is a rabbit hole we are on every day in our lives. Whenever we go to sleep, we go through these 8 stages. Mind you, we are unaware of them. Every night we go to heaven, yet we are unaware of it. When a person dies, these same steps take place. A wise man practices diet every day. He realizes that only the body dies. You are the universe. You just don't know it. Australian physicist Edward Schrödinger is known for this phrase. The total number of minds in the universe is 1. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings. There is one universal mind. These stages take place every night and bring you back to the source. Mystic and yogis have been practicing this for thousands of years. You can solve this puzzle. The answer lies inside of you. The operating system, hardware, and software have been there since you were born. The sun is always there. That is your true nature. You have simply placed dark clouds around you. Remove the clouds within and discover your true nature. Stage 1, earth into water. Stage 2, water into air. Stage 3, fire into air. Stage 4, air into consciousness. Stage 5, consciousness into luminance. Stage 6, luminance into radiance. Stage 7, radiance into immanence. Stage 8, immanence into transparency. A wise man smiles and laughs at death. He dies every day and sees the unity of life. He realizes death is simply changing into new clothes. We don't cry when we wear a new outfit. Everything in this universe is created and destroyed, even the universe. Yet behind that lies the source of all creation, which is eternal. Going home. Imagine the same process of death occurs 4 times a day for everyone, yet most people don't know it or experience it. We go from the waking state to the dream state, the dream state back to the waking state. We die every day. The Tibetans have a book called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It goes step by step in the death process. What I liked in this class was that Lama Glenn and Changrala said that everyone will have a completely different experience of the death process, depending on your religious background or spiritual background. Each one of us will have a different experience. The essence of the quantum field embraces all. It will comfort you to go back home. A spiritual anesthesia is given to overcome the pain and suffering one is in. All troubles are melted away. One will melt and merge with the clear light. This is your true home. All religions point to going back home. The wise man is curious and wants to day by day experience his true essence while alive. This is called the state of enlightenment. There are many steps along the way. This is why I call this the video game of life. We are hardwired for this experience. The software and operating systems are in place. The wise man understands and directly goes through the 8 stages of dissolution every day. The great mysteries are shown to him. One becomes united with the universe and beyond. Poa. The Poa practice, or transference of consciousness at the time of death, is a simple, powerful means of ejecting the consciousness from the crown aperture into the Buddha field of Amitabha, aka the land of paradise, bypassing the bardos and avoiding rebirth in the 6 realms of cyclical existence. Sufficiently realized practitioners can facilitate this transfer of consciousness for others as well as themselves. Once in paradise, one does not return to the samskaric realms and can quickly attain enlightenment. Margaret the translator said, "If you study Poa, then at the time when death is approaching, you will have no despair. If beforehand you have become accustomed to the path of Poa, then at the time of death you will be full of cheerful confidence." Lama Glenn recently told a story of a dear old friend who was dying. The Dalai Lama was a good friend of her for many years. He told her, "Why not call the Dalai Lama and ask and ask him to meditate and transfer you to paradise. She replies she didn't even have the energy to do so. Anyway, Clan gets on the phone and makes a phone call. This person calls the Dalai Lama, who is sound asleep in bed. They wake him up, and he sits in meditation and assists her in the transformation. She leaves her body. This may seem like a fairy tale, yet one can be in paradise and on earth at the same time. Why not be in paradise? Why not be in paradise when you die? This person spent her life meditating upon paradise. Why not get an extra shove along the way? Poa, 2. Another meaning for the word poa is transformation. The same process a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly is the same for the spiritual life. A butterfly spent time in a cocoon whereby the transformation took place. We all have an inner cocoon inside of us. As I said many times before, the hardware, software, and operating systems have been put in place when we were born. The practice of Tumo and Poa brings the systems back online. Tumo is the fire of love and compassion. This is your true nature. Behind the universe lies the fire of life. It's keeping the entire universe alive. There is only one mind ultimately, and one body. The body and mind are one and the same. It's a good idea to find heaven while you are alive. The world would be in a better place. You would too be in a better place. I said many times before that the spiritual life is the most practical life. Most people roll their eyes and they say, yay, that's absurd. How would you like to live in the center of the hurricane instead of the hurricane force winds of the mind? This practice over time calms the winds of the mind. They are simply dark clouds covering the inner sun inside of you. Your true essence is the sun, not the clouds. This practice can remove the inner clouds. The key is transformation. Your attitude is everything. Many people have a poor attitude and wonder why they are in the dumps. Remember, you are your own master Kevins. You are the only one who can change your attitude and beliefs. Most of our beliefs are external. They are extremely limited and won't take you to your destination. A wise man combines the external and internal. This means that one has his feet on the ground and his head in heaven. One is in harmony and balance. In this state, one has nothing to prove. One simply smiles at life. One has complete love and compassion for his fellow man. This person realizes that we are all one and the same. If the world at large has this experience, there would be peace on earth. Stop the noise in your head. As the children began to learn how to meditate, they saw how powerful the mind is. They never noticed that before. They asked the dragon how to stop the noise in my head. Of course, all the dragons laughed. They laugh because everyone goes through this. You see, the mind is the most difficult thing to control in the universe. The majority of man reacts to every situation. Man is reacting. The wise man learns to be proactive. They understand the basic law. It's my will alone. I set my mind in motion. Now, that's very easy to say, but hard to do. All people who learn how to meditate in the beginning have this problem. In the East, they call it monkey mind. The monkey goes from one branch to another. It can't be controlled. Well, when they first started to learn how to meditate, they clearly saw this from first-hand experience. The dragons told a wonderful story each time the subject was brought up. They told a story where a man saves a genie. Nobody knows exactly how this man saved him. Well, the genie told this man, you can have as many wishes as you want. The man said, wow, that's incredible. I love that idea. The genie said, well, there's a catch. The man said, well, what's that? You must always give one wish after another. If you don't, I will chop your head off with a sword. Are you sure you want to continue with this? The man hesitates for a moment and says, reluctant, sure. Well, the genie said, what's your first wish? The man gives one wish after another. It seems like when one wish is granted, he has to give another. He didn't even have one opportunity to enjoy, even for a second, the previous wish. He was getting tired and couldn't even go to sleep. The genie was always harassing him and saying, what's your next wish? Well, fortunately, there was a wise man nearby. He went to the wise man and sincerely asked for help. This boon was turning into a curse. The wise man whispered into his ear, well, the genie demanded another wish, or he would chop off his head. The young man said, go to the forest and find a huge log. Your wish is my command. In a second he returned with a huge log. The genie said with a smile, give me a wish, I will chop off your head. As you can see, the genie wasn't particularly nice. So the young man told the genie to go up and down the pole. When I need you, I will give you another command. The young man could relax and enjoy all the wishes he gave to the genie. The genie knew he was outsmarted by this wise man. The young boy enjoyed his life and helped others in the community. He eventually learned about the dragons and helped tremendously his fellow man. The dragons said that the genie is the mind. The mind wants to control you versus the other way around. By placing your mind on your breath, the genie will go up and down the log and set you free. Meditation is the key to bring awareness to your mind. The mind is either your friend or foe. Everyone in the universe has to learn how to control the mind.
One of the greatest events in the history of mankind is happening right before our eyes, and we're not even aware of it. This world has reached a juncture where we must decide where we want to go. We can obviously blow ourselves up, or we have a few wonderful options. The Great White Brotherhood is a consortium of beings who help balance the state of affairs on different dimensions. They have existed for eternity. There are many wonderful beings who have merged themselves as a single and separate consciousness. There are both sides of the coin. They are separate entities, yet at the same time, they are a group with a common consciousness. They are here for universal justice. They don't enforce their way on anyone, but if you want their assistance, they will come in any shape, way, or form. The majority of all our great spiritual teachers, past, present, and future, are part of this consortium. They are here because they love humanity. At this critical time in the history of the planet, we need help. Our government can't solve the problems. There are millions of people on the face of this planet who are part of this master plan. Some are aware and some not. We can blow ourselves up in disharmony, or we can learn how to live in harmony. It's our choice. They will never harm us. Their aim is to protect humanity, but it is our decision. Humanity as a whole has to make that decision. Do we want chaos like we have now, or do we want a planet where happiness, cooperation, and tolerance reside? I have met many of these beings, and they are the most compassionate beings you will ever meet. A lot of them have lived lives and know our drama. They learn to transcend this world. Their joy is to assist and teach us ways to improve our lives. They're not interested in changing your religion. They just want you to be a better Christian if you are a Christian. If you're a Buddhist, be like a Buddha. Live in compassion and tolerance that the Buddha preached. We are all brothers and sisters from the Almighty Father. They have been sent here by our Father to help humanity. What would this world be like if we all lived in compassion towards each other? We would be in peace. We are living in disharmony. When man lives in disharmony, his civilization goes down the tube. We have the ability to change ourselves. Each one of us has all the help we need if we request our help. We should pray and ask for guidance in our lives. Let's stop pretending we know all the answers. We don't. Help from the entire universe is at each one's beckoning call. We just have to ask. It's time humanity wakes up. A lot of people think I'm too busy with my life. Well, when your last breath leaves your body, how busy will you be? Let's build a safe place in this world. We all have the same dream.
Cosmic impact. Just think, the dragons fought for thousands of years and thought there wasn't nothing wrong with that. Common sense is uncommon, just like in our world. The dragons had to stumble and fall, just like we have to. As I said, nobody gets a free ride. Yet, around practicing tumo and meditation, they reached a level where they saw the building of illusionary body within. As Lama Glenn describes, the bricks were always there to build a house, yet they were never put together. When a person is at a point of building the illusionary body consciously, the clear light begins to appear. Slowly, I mean slowly, the dragons began to experience this in their everyday life. What a huge impact this had on their society. A person needs to rewire the circuits in the mind and body. Creating an illusionary body consciously helped in creating these new neural networks. In essence, they were building a physical, non-physical body. The non-physical body was part of the quantum field. At some point, the clear light from the quantum field appears. The goal of yoga is to become one with the clear light. Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. King James Version. O seeker of truth, I have witnessed such a great wonder. A well suspended in the sky from which ambrosia ceaselessly flows. A lame man climbs to it without any ladder and drinks jugs of that nectar. Gongs, conches, and kettlebells ring out without being played by anyone. The deaf man hears them and becomes ecstatic. They lose track of body and mind. Up there is a palace without foundation, which is radiant with light. The blind sees it and is so overjoyed they can't stop talking about it. In that place a person dies, yet continues to live and has strength without food. Brahmanam says that only a rare soul can understand his tale. This single event changed the dragons forever. They knew consciously they were going from darkness to light. This even changed dramatically for the dragons. They were beginning to have their feet on the ground and their head in heaven. Day by day, each dragon was being transformed within. What is Chaka Savara practice? By Dr. Alexander Berzin. This evening I've been asked to speak about the Chakravara system of Amitabha Tantra, the highest class of Tantra practice. And though I certainly am not an accomplished practitioner of this system by any means, I received some teachings on it from my teachers. So what I'd like you to present is based on a discourse by His Holiness the Dalai Lama on Tasanga's commentary to the abbreviated Tantra of Chakras called The Complete Education of the Hidden Meanings, and also a discourse on the text by one of His Holiness teachers, Tishab Serbang Rinpoche, on the generation stage of the Limpia lineage of Chakras. Written by a great Tibetan master called Alku Sherab Gyatso. So what I'm explaining is based on that. Why should we practice Tantra? In general, when we need to learn something about Tantra, it's very important to examine why. Why do you want to know more about this? Why do we want to practice it? And as we went through in setting our motivation for this lecture, the main reason needs to be compassion, our deep concern for others, and our own very strong bodhicitta wish to achieve not only better rebirths, but beyond that, liberation from uncontrollable reoccurring rebirth, and beyond that, the enlightened state of a Buddha, to be able to help others as much as possible to also gain liberation and enlightenment. And our compassion, our concern for others is so strong that we want to do that in the most efficient way. That means we are not motivated by impatience in the sense that we're lazy and we want something that's fast and easy. But no matter how difficult the more efficient way is, we want to do that so we can reach enlightenment as quickly as possible to be of our best help to everyone, with the full enthusiasm, the armor-like perseverance it's called to endure the tremendous difficulties of practicing this highest yoga practice. So we are not minimizing it, and we don't have some false idea that this is going to be an easy path, but we're willing to do it in order to help others. That's very important. And with a realistic attitude towards Tantra, then in order to be able to really engage with it, in addition to the basics of Buddhism, what Tsongkhapa calls the three principal pathway minds, renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct understanding of voidness, we need to have confidence in the Tantra path in general, and the Untitled Yoga Tantra path specifically. Confidence, this is very important. That means that we not only understand how it works, how it will bring us to enlightenment, but also we are convinced that it will work, and on top of that, that we're capable of actually following that successfully to the goal of enlightenment. Otherwise, what are we doing this practice for? We're practicing something we don't understand, we don't know how it works, and we're not convinced that we can get anywhere with it. So that's very weak practice, isn't it? Now you might object. There's always the Buddhist method. Not just Buddhist, it's the Indian method, which is to give the point of view of the objection to it, the other side, and then answer that objection. Well, didn't Buddha also say that if you're shot by an arrow, you don't need to first ask who shot the arrow and what's it made of and how will it kill me and so on. You just want to take the arrow out. So why do we need to understand anything about the practice? Shouldn't we just follow it on the basis of faith in our teachers? And although for some practitioners that may work, Buddha also taught many different styles, and one can combine these two approaches that we can start to get involved with Tantra. But to really make our foundation firm, it's important to understand what we're doing and be convinced that it will work. I'm sure many of you took these empowerments, these initiations, based on just confidence that, well, my teacher said it would be good. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has given it. Let's go and do it without really having any clear understanding of what you're getting involved with. So that's the first approach. Just pull out the arrow. But now that you're sort of gotten into it, if we look at the text containing Tantra, it says that in the beginning, before an empowerment, the teacher, as part of the empowerment ceremony, explains the Tantra path in order to generate confidence in that path in the disciples. It's part of the ritual. So although that might not take a tremendous amount of time, so you don't have to wait until you died from the arrow while you get a long explanation, it's a combination of the two approaches, isn't it? So now that some of you have received empowerment in order to really practice it with conviction, it's very helpful to know how it works. The meaning of the name Chaka Savara. First of all, what does the name Chaka Savara mean? In Tibetan, it's Krolo, Dompa. Savara means collected together, and Kordo, or chakra, is a circle. And it's referring to the circle of the deities that are involved or representing body, speech, and mind. So what we have are all the aspects of body, speech, and mind collected together within the context of blissful, non-conceptual cognition, avoidance. And sometimes we found that this system is called not Chaka Samvara, but just Samvara, which as a whole word means collected together. But the Tibetans will take this word Samvara and divide it into the prefix Sam and the word Vara. And Sam they translate with the word D, which means bliss, and Vara as choke, supreme. So that's how you get it, the Tibetan name Demlok. It means supreme bliss. Another name for Chakasavara is Haruka. He is the first syllable of a Sanskrit word which means to sport with, which means to act with in a joyful way. And the second syllable, Ru, is short for the Sanskrit word for blood. And Ka is short for the Sanskrit word for skullcap. And so Haruka is one who sports or acts joyfully with blood in the skullcap, which has many, many different levels of what it represents. It represents various things in the subtle energy systems used to get access to the subtlest mental activity. So because of this etymology of the name Heruka, the Tibetans sometimes call Heruka Traktun, which means blood drinker. What does it mean that Heruka is a vampire? Don't translate it as a vampire, please. In the Kagu and Naguma systems, Heruka is sometimes used as a general name for male deities. But in the Guluka system, Heruka is not used with that meaning. So these are all different names that we will come across for this deity and the deity system. Sometimes the name is given just to the central figure. Sometimes the name is given for the entire group of figures. It's actually 62 figures in the Chakra Savara system. The textual tradition. So why do we study? What are the texts? The full Chakasavara Tantras were in two versions, one in 300,000 verses and one in 100,000 verses. Verses called shloka in Sanskrit, a four-line verse of a certain type of meter, and these were not translated in Tibetan. These we can find quite frequently with these tantras, that the large tantras never made it in Tibetan, and actually they seem to have been lost in Sanskrit for the most part, not completely. But there's abbreviated root tantra, and that was translated into Tibetan, and it's in 51 chapters. 51 is for the letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. There are 51 letters. The root tantra is mostly about the complete stage practice, and there are many Indian commentaries. When we talk about Anitar Yoga Tantras, we have division into two. We have what's called the clear Tantras and the hidden or obscure Tantras. The clear or obvious Tantra is referring to Kalachara, and there the various practice and referring to some very specific practices. I don't need to go into the details, as explained very clearly and openly. And in the hidden or obscure tantras, Chakra Savara is one of them. The explanations in the root tantra are written in a very obscure, hidden manner that is not at all obvious what it means. And because of that, they have what are known as explanatory tantras to expand and make the meaning clear, as we have in the Guya Samaja system, for example. So here we have that also in Chaka Samvara, and Tosankapa explains that there's the root tantra for Chaka Savara, explanatory tantras, and what's called branch or auxiliary tantras. And there's dispute whether there are 4 or 5 explanatory tantras. Tosankapa says there's 5, but then in another work he says there are 6, if we count the root tantra together with them. They had spirit and Sanskrit original versions of this material. When Bhutan, a great Sakya master, put together the Kagir, the collection of the words of the Buddha, he included only those which had a Sanskrit original. So this fact that there are the Sanskrit originals of the root tantra and explanatory tantras, etc., adds to its validity. For the Tibetans, that was very important, although again, one can start to get into a little debate about that because of the whole issue of revealed texts and treasure texts and so on. In other words, if it was revealed by Vardhara in India, it was more valid than if it was revealed in Tibet and so on. So you can get into a lot of debates about it. But anyway, Bhutan had its criteria. There are 3 main lineages of Chakasavara. These derive from 3 great Indian mastates, Their names are Lupia and then Guantapa. In Tibetan, he's called Drulupa, and Krishnachari in Tibetan, known as Nagpapa. This Drupapa or Grandpapa lineage has been a 5-deity practice and a body mandala practice. See also, what is mandala? I believe the empowerment that you receive from His Holiness the Dalai Lama was the 5-deity practice within the Drupapa Grandpapa tradition. So what are the differences here? From a vision of Vajrahara, so again, it came from a vision, but it happened to be in India, so that was okay. Lupupa wrote down the root and explanatory tantras. The Lupipa tradition is mostly noted for its explanation of the activities that are based on that practice. And on the generation stage is the most complete form, the most extensive form. So there are 62 deities in the mandala, and we have both the 62 deities in the external mandala, which is a palace, a building, plus the 62 deities around in different parts of the body as a body mandala of the main figure. So this is where the most complex of these generation stage practices, and it's mostly practiced in the Guluka monasteries. Nagpoa's explanation of the presentation in the root tantra of the complete stage is the clearest. So his tradition is recommended for the study of the Tantra texts. I must say from my experience that I haven't come across people in the Galupa tradition practicing the actual sadhanas and so on from Nipopa's lineage, although there must be some people who do, but it's mostly followed for its explanation of the Tantra texts. And the Drupupa tradition, the body mandala practice of it is a special lineage in which the empowerment is given from the body mandala as opposed to given from an external mandala. It has a great deal of detail on the complete stage practice. And so the Drupupa tradition is noted for studying when you want to study the very profound meaning of the complete stage. His Holiness recommends that for understanding the root tantra, always rely upon the explanatory tantras of Vijayahara himself. So the actual Indian explanation tantras and the oral traditions coming from Naropa. This is very much the standard recommendation that His Holiness always gives, that all the Tibetan traditions come from India, and so rely on the Indian texts, the original versions, and not on the later Tibetan commentaries. Later Tibetan commentaries can clarify, but don't only rely on the latter Tibetan sources. Go back to the Indian origin. So again, just to give you some more information, whether it's interesting or useful or not, I don't know. The complete stage where you actually work with the bliss and the energy system is the main topic of the root tantra and its explanatory nature. One difference is that the Lupia tradition divides the complete tantra into 6 stages, Drupupa into 5 stages, Napopa into 4 stages. So there's a different ways of classifying it. And even on the generation stage, we have 2 traditions. The secondary figures, the so-called Dakas and Dakinis, is not clear in the root tantras, but in the Lupia tradition, they have 4 arms. In the Drupiya tradition, they have 2 arms. What is the conclusion from that? It doesn't matter how many arms they have. Don't get hung up on whether it has 4 or 2 arms. There are many variants of everything. Welcome to the world of Tibetan Buddhism. It's very interesting. I'm reading a book by an Indian author, Raj Mohata, called Being Different, in which he makes the case for how different the Dharmic traditions, that's Hinduism, Judaism, Jainism, are from the Abrahamic traditions, that is Christianity. And he doesn't go into Islam, but that would be on that side as well. In the Abrahamic traditions, you have a very uneasy merging of the biblical traditions with Greek rationalism. And so within that tradition, things become a little bit chaotic, and having too many variants and so on is very uncomfortable. Everything has to be rational and order controlled, God, one truth, etc. Well, in the Dharmic traditions of India, there's no problem whatsoever with chaos. Chaos doesn't need to be controlled. Underlining that in Buddhism, it's called the play of clear light. Underlining the whole diversity of different forms is a basic unity. So those of you who have visited India know that you can have a society that functions perfectly well and looks from a Western point of view completely chaotic. So please, when trying to practice Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever, if you try to approach it from this, everything has to be in order and under control, this sort of Western point of view, you're going to be very frustrated. So 4 arms, 2 arms, same, the sort of Indian attitude. Try to be comfortable with that, okay? Many of you perhaps have heard of Vajrasattva, Haruka Vajrasattva. There is an Anutama Yoga Vajrasattva Samvara empowerment. Remember, Savara was one of the names for Chaka Savara, who is white with 3 faces, 6 arms, and embracing a partner that looks the same. And this comes from a collection of empowerments known as Vajramalala. So you actually visualize yourself as Vajrasattva in this form. This is within the Gulag traditions, but it's extremely, extremely rare and not usually practiced. So in our usually Chakanvara sadhanas, when you have the Haruka Vajrasattva practice, it's not this one. It's just our usual white Vajrasattva couple on the head. A little more fangs than the usual one. Same. And a few syllables in the mantra are different. You say Harisattva rather than Vajrasattva. You also have variants of Yamanataka Sattva. You also have variants of Padmasattva. Same. It doesn't matter. That's very important. That really is. All the Guru Yogas, all the trees of ascended Gurus, there are so many variants. They are all the same. To try to get into order, and it has been like this, and it can't be like that, and so on, is really quite fertile, and it's a terrible diversion from the essence of the practice. Try to get to the essence, the meaning, the unity behind all of them, despite the chaos of all the various forms they have been presenting themselves in. Okay? I can't emphasize that enough. Summary. So in summary, the main point while you want to get involved with Chakasavara practice is to attain the enlightened state of a Buddha, because you have such strong compassion for everybody. And to do that, you need the non-conceptual cognition of voidness with bodhicitta, and a blissful mind, and appear in forms that will help others. And the most efficient way of doing this is to access the subtlest level of mental activity, the clear light mind. One way of accessing that is through increasing levels of bliss experience within the central channel, which will get the winds more subtle and get the mind more subtle. And Chakasavara has the most details on that, particularly with the Tumo, the inner heat practice, on the complete stage and various visualization practices on the generation stage to help us to get increasingly blissful states of mind. So that's our general introduction to the Chaka Savara system. And please remember that unless you have as your basis very strong three principal paths, renunciation, bodhicitta, understanding of voidness, to just visualize yourself in the form of one of these figures and recite mantra and do all these things is just a cause for being reborn as a hungry ghost in the form of one of these deities. So it's very, very important that it's not in terms of this lifetime and having some sort of trip to Buddhist Disneyland and playing with your Varja and bell as if you were some great yogi. It has to do with bodhicitta, dedicating to achieving enlightenment to benefit everyone, with a clear understanding of the voidness of what you're doing. Don't make it into some big ego trip. And of course, all within the context of keeping all the vows, the ethical discipline, which is the basics for this. And with that, and the inspiration of the teachers and the lineage, proceed along the path. Thank you very much, Dr. Alexander Bershin. The story of Chaka Savara subduing Shiva. Now I prepared some more material here, which we don't really have time for, which is the whole myth of Buddha or Vajrahara emanating as Chaka Savara in order to subjugate or subdue Shiva. And the most extensive research that's been done on that is an article written by a Western scholar called Ronald Davidson. And as I said, we don't have time to go through the result of all his study of this. But basically, to just summarize it, we find this in the Indian Yoga Tantras. There are 4 classes of Tantra, but this is one of the Yoga Tantras called Tacha Vasamagraha. That's what you'll first find Vajrapani actually subjecting Shiva. Shiva is called Maha Ishvara, and out of compassion forcing him to quiet down and then giving him initiation and then bringing them into the mandalas. And then you will find this in some later Tantra texts in the context of either Vajrapani or Chakra-samvara, but it's only in one of the earlier 12th century Sakka masters called Drakama Gayustin that you find the full form of this myth. So pretty much from Tibet, in which Shiva, called Maha Ishvara, and his consort Uma are on top of Mount Meru. And they have emanations in the 24 sacred places, and they're all eating human flesh and drinking human bloods and acting on all sorts of strange and forceful ways. And then Vajrahara emanates in the form of Chakasavara, looking exactly the same as Shiva looked, with the ashes on the body and the whole bit piled up hair, and acting in the same type of way in the Sag, the Gana Chakra gatherings of the blood and the flesh, like in the form of the inner offerings during the Sag. You have a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of meat. So they act in a similar type of way in order to see, in a sense, gain the confidence and trust of these deities and the followers. And then, in a sense, giving in Shiva and Uma empowerment to overcome the excess of this type of behavior. And these strong actions that they were doing, out of compassion, giving them initiation, bringing them to clear light mind, making them Buddhas and so on. And to represent all of that, the various figures in the Chakra-samvara mandala are standing on top of a trampoline, various forms of Shiva and Uma or Parvati. So all of this has to be understood, according to Davidson, in the context of what was going on in India, the rivalry between the Shiva form of Hinduism and Buddhism. Each system, in a very Indian type of way, was trying to incorporate the other systems within it. So the Hindu systems made Buddha into one of the incarnations, one of the avatars of Vishnu. So if you practice Buddha's teachings, very good. You're actually practicing a form of Hinduism. Very clever. So no problem, the diversity. And the Buddhists in this brought all these various Hindu deities and so into Buddhism, but with a general context of compassion that will bring them to enlightenment and so on. And they included them in our mandalas. So although this may seem very interesting from a psychological and anthropological point of view, it's important not to get diverted away from the actual practice and into these sort of questions. But just be aware that there was this dynamic between the Hindu and Buddhist practices, particularly in terms of the Tantra system in both of these. So the Buddhists would say, according to this myth, that, well, we had this drinking blood and the human bones and eating flesh and the ashes on the body and stuff like that. We just adopted that from Shiva practice in order to make them more comfortable and then transform it into a way of attaining enlightenment. This is the apology, but for us, I think that's a bit irrelevant. Feedback. This is the feedback I got from my Facebook post. As usual, when I read such texts, I end up in utter confusion, e.g., 4 of this, 6 of that, 52 in another, 3 branches, countless unfamiliar names, etc., etc., etc. Nah, I'll stay with knowledge. No need for a cosmic abracus and dictionary. It's real simple. 100% mental. O seeker of truth, I have witnessed such a great wonder, a well suspended in the sky from which ambrosia ceaselessly flows. A lame man climbs to it without any ladder and drinks jugs of that nectar. Gong, conches, and kettle drums ring out without being played by anyone. The deaf hears them and becomes ecstatic. They lose track of body and mind. Up there is the palace without foundation, which is radiant with light. The blind see it and are so overjoyed they can't stop talking about it. In that place a person dies, yet continues to live and has strength without eating food. Brahmanan says that only a rare soul can understand his tale. Commentary. I first heard this poem when I was 18 years old in India. It made a precious memory inside of me. There is a jewel inside that mankind can discover. Only a wise man understands what I'm talking about. This ancient poem is full of symbols that many of us are familiar with. Therefore, we have no problems hearing this poem and getting affected by it. The What is Chaka Savara practice article above is extremely sophisticated. More people have been enlightened using their systems than anywhere on earth. They are the Einsteins of training for enlightenment. Just think, before the Chinese invaded Tibet, the entire nation was striving for enlightenment for all sentient beings in the seen and unseen worlds. Children would start their spiritual practice at a very young age. Their minds were highly trained and advanced. The use of archetypal symbols became a part of their lives along with their principles. In the West, especially in the US, our minds mostly focus externally. We don't have the training for enlightenment like the Tibetan culture. Here are 2 books I wrote about the 6 Jokers of Naropa. As you might know, I've written many books on many mystical traditions. This is a hobby of mine, and I love seeing the adversity of all. The great mystics never fought with each other. There's nothing to say or prove. These two books are a modern-day version, talking about the steps to enlightenment for the Six Jokers of Naropa lineage. They might help clarify your understanding. The post above is the equivalent of understanding Einstein's theory of relativity in calculus when we only know basic math. Gifts from the dragons. Just think, this entire dragon practice was assimilated into the lands of our East. You see, the knowledge the dragons received was stored in the quantum field. All wisdom lies there. The dragons received this wisdom from other great civilizations that existed trillions of years before them. It's an ongoing process of going from darkness to light. This is an incredible journey in life. The planet Earth is on the verge of awakening up from our slumber. The sun is about ready to rise in the sky. We have such great potential inside of us. Miracles can and do occur. We can solve this riddle of life. The answers exist inside of you. We are never alone. We just think so. Yes, chaos is all around. Yet chaos can be our friends. It's a matter of the state of mind. Nothing external is constant. Everything is changing. Nothing in life is static. Yet we hold on for dear life the external world. The dragons are still with us today. They have never left us. The wisdom exists inside of you. This is where we can find our precious friends. You are the universe. You just don't know it.